15 black actresses who were abused on set by jerks. What if I told you that some of the most beloved black actresses in Hollywood, the women whose faces lit up your favorite films, the voices that made you cry, laugh, and dream, carried unspeakable burdens behind every smile they gave the camera? Behind the gowns and the golden statues, there were lawsuits buried under settlements, careers destroyed for speaking up, and decades of silence enforced by an industry that punished women who refused to play along. The truth is darker than the brightest red carpet, and today, we are pulling back that velvet curtain on 15 extraordinary women who endured the unimaginable and somehow still rose. Tisha Campbell. For 5 glorious seasons on Fox, she was Gina Waters-Payne, the brilliant, sharp-tongued partner of one of the most beloved sitcom characters of the 1990s. Tisha Campbell brought sparkle, comedic timing, and undeniable chemistry to Martin, a show that ran from August 1992 to May 1997, and became a cultural touchstone for an entire generation. But behind those flawless performances, behind the laugh track and the iconic catchphrases, a private nightmare was building, one that would eventually bring the entire production to an abrupt and painful end. Tisha Campbell, now 57 years old, abruptly quit the sitcom in November 1996. 2 months later, in January 1997, she filed a federal lawsuit against her co-star, Martin Lawrence, the show's production company, and HBO Independent Productions. The allegations were stunning. She accused Lawrence of repeated and escalating sexual harassment, sexual battery, verbal abuse, and related threats spanning 5 years of working together. The lawsuit specifically described groping during bedroom scenes, attempted unwanted kisses, yelling, and threats on set. The studio had initially sued her, trying to force her back on screen. She countersued. Eventually, both sides reached an out-of-court settlement in April 1997. The condition was simple. Tisha agreed to film the remaining episodes, but only if she and Lawrence shot none of their scenes together. That is why, if you ever re-watched the final season, the storylines feel oddly disconnected. The cracks were real, and they were intentional. For decades, Tisha carried this story quietly. In 2022, she and Martin Lawrence publicly reconciled for a BET Plus reunion special. They had, in her words, worked really hard to forgive and reconnect. Whatever truly happened between them, she chose grace. Sometimes, survival looks like silence. Sometimes, it looks like forgiveness offered on your own terms. And both, in their own way, are forms of profound strength. Halle Berry. Long before she became the first black woman to win the Academy Award for Best Actress in 2002, this Cleveland-born performer had already weathered storms that would have broken weaker spirits. Halle Berry, now 59 years old, has spent decades being celebrated for her beauty and talent. But the path she walked to reach that golden Oscar moment was paved with pain that audiences rarely saw. In multiple candid interviews over the years, Halle has revealed that an early boyfriend physically attacked her so severely that she lost approximately 80% of her hearing in her left ear. The damage was permanent. She has never publicly identified the man, but she has spoken openly about how that violence shaped her relationship with safety, trust, and her own body for the rest of her life. It is a wound she still carries every single day. Then there was the industry itself. During the early years of her career, Halle was repeatedly told she was too dark-skinned to play certain leading roles. Casting directors openly questioned whether audiences would find her attractive enough for romantic parts. Even after landing her breakout in 1992's Boomerang, she was reportedly told she needed to be lighter to be seen as sexy. She smiled through it. She kept showing up. She fought to be seen as a whole woman, not just a complexion. When she finally walked onto the Oscar stage at the 2002 Academy Awards, tears streaming down her face, she said the moment was for every nameless, faceless woman of color who now had a chance. More than 2 decades later, only a handful of black women have followed her into that category. Triumph is rarely a single moment. Most often, it is the quiet refusal to disappear, repeated over and over, until the world finally has no choice but to look. Monique. Few stories in Hollywood are as painful as the cost paid by a woman who simply refused to play by unfair rules. Monique, now 58 years old, won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress in March 2010 for her devastating performance in Precious. She was paid just $50,000 for the role, a sum that should embarrass any studio. What happened after that Oscar win became one of the most discussed cases of blacklisting in modern Hollywood history. According to Monique, director Lee Daniels called her months after the awards and told her she had been blackballed because she did not play the game. The so-called game involved unpaid international promotional travel, particularly to the Cannes Film Festival, that was not in her contract. She had a family. She had her own terms. She said no. The consequences, she claimed, came swiftly. Roles in The Butler and Empire that had been offered to her vanished. Phone calls stopped coming. For years, Monique was branded as difficult. She called out Oprah Winfrey, Tyler Perry, and Lee Daniels by name in interviews and stand-up specials. Then, in 2019, she sued Netflix for racial and gender pay discrimination after the streamer offered her just $500,000 for a comedy special, while comedians like Amy Schumer received over $10 million. She won a partial settlement in June 2022. That same year, Lee Daniels joined her on stage in Staten Island and publicly apologized. In 2024, she returned to acting in his Netflix film The Deliverance, a full-circle moment after 13 years of silence between former friends. The most expensive thing a woman in any industry can do is tell the truth. But the most valuable thing she can keep is the integrity of her own name. Viola Davis. There is a moment in her 2022 memoir, Finding Me, that stops every reader cold. Viola Davis, now 60 years old, describes growing up in poverty so severe that her family lived in condemned, rat-infested buildings in Central Falls, Rhode Island. She and her sisters once tied a sock around a rat to keep it from gnawing on her face while she slept. That is the foundation. That is where the legend began. When Viola finally broke into Hollywood, she discovered that the industry valued her differently than her lighter-skinned, slimmer counterparts. In a now famous 2018 interview at the Women in the World Summit, she revealed that despite being one of the most awarded actresses of her generation, she was paid significantly less than her white peers, even after winning her Oscar in 2017 for Fences. She bluntly stated that she felt like a black woman of 53 who was being paid like a black actress, not like Meryl Streep, not like Julianne Moore. She has also spoken openly about colorism, about the way darker-skinned black women are rarely cast as romantic leads, about how her hairstyles were questioned, about being called too intense, too strong, too much. In her acceptance speech at the 2015 Primetime Emmys, the first time a black woman won Best Actress in a Drama Series, she quoted Harriet Tubman and said the only thing that separates women of color from anyone else is opportunity. Today she is a producer, an EGOT winner since 2023, a force in shaping which stories get told and who gets to tell them. The world tried to define her by what she lacked. She redefined herself by what she built. And that, ultimately, is the most powerful art of all. Lupita Nyong'o. When she stepped onto the Oscars stage in March 2014 to accept Best Supporting Actress for 12 Years a Slave, she was a name the world had barely known 6 months earlier. Lupita Nyong'o, now 43 years old, born in Mexico City to Kenyan parents, had graduated from the Yale School of Drama just 3 years before. Her first major film role brought her global fame. But that fame did not happen in a vacuum. There was a shadow, and his name was Harvey Weinstein. On October 19, 2017, Just 2 weeks after the explosive New York Times expose that ignited the modern Me Too movement, Lupita published her own op-ed in the same paper. She detailed 2 separate incidents from 2011, when she was still a Yale student. During a visit to Weinstein's Connecticut home, she said he asked her to give him a massage in his bedroom. Later, at a restaurant meeting, she said he pressured her to drink and then attempted to lead her upstairs to a hotel room. She refused. She left. Weinstein's spokesperson denied her account, one of only 2 such public denials he ever issued, both directed at women of color. The other was actress Salma Hayek. Harvey Weinstein was convicted in February 2020 and sentenced to 23 years in a New York prison. A separate Los Angeles conviction in 2023 added 16 more years. In April 2024, his New York conviction was overturned on appeal, and a retrial began in 2025. Lupita went on to star in Black Panther, Us, and the Oscar-winning A Quiet Place, Day One. Telling the truth is never the moment of glamour Hollywood paints. It is a quiet act of courage, made alone, that gives strength to every woman who reads those words. Aaliyah. She was barely a teenager when the world first heard that velvet voice. Aaliyah Dana Houghton, who would have been 47 years old this year, released her debut album Age Ain't Nothin' But a Number in May 1994 when she was just 15. The man who produced it, wrote it, and shaped her early career was R. Kelly. The title of the album, in retrospect, becomes one of the most chilling statements in music history. On August 31, 1994, in Rosemont, Illinois, 15-year-old Aaliyah married 27-year-old R. Kelly in a secret ceremony. The marriage certificate listed her age as 18, a forgery that has since been displayed as evidence in multiple criminal trials. Her family annulled the marriage in February 1995 once they discovered it. Aaliyah herself never spoke publicly about what happened. She moved forward, building one of the most innovative careers in R&B and beginning a promising film career with Romeo Must Die in 2000 and Queen of the Damned, released after her death. On August 25, 2001, Aaliyah died in a plane crash in the Bahamas at just 22 years old while filming a music video for the song Rock the Boat. She was returning home with members of her team. The plane was overloaded. The pilot was unlicensed and reportedly had cocaine and alcohol in his system. 20 years later, during R. Kelly's federal trial in 2021, witnesses including a former tour manager testified about the forged marriage. Kelly was sentenced to 30 years in federal prison in June 2022, with 20 additional years from a Chicago conviction running mostly concurrently. Some voices are taken from this world too soon. Some truths arrive too late. But the woman she might have become still echoes in every artist she inspired. Gabrielle Union. In May 2019, Gabrielle Union, now 53 years old, joined the judging panel of NBC's America's Got Talent for its 14th season. According to Nielsen ratings, she became the highest-performing judge on the show that year. Yet by November 2019, just 6 months later, she and fellow judge Julianne Hough were both unceremoniously dismissed. What unfolded next would expose the toxic underbelly of one of television's most popular, family-friendly programs. Gabrielle filed a complaint with California's Department of Fair Employment and Housing in June 2020. In a detailed interview with Variety that same year, she described what she called a textbook hostile work environment. She has a severe allergy to cigarette smoke. From her first day, creator Simon Cowell allegedly smoked indoors next to her. When she raised the issue with producers, they told her nothing could be done. She also described being told that her many hairstyles were too black for the audience. She described an act in which a performer wore black gloves to mock a black celebrity. She described a comment that guest judge Jay Leno allegedly made about a painting, an Asian joke producers promised would be edited out, but that she said could not be edited from her own memory. NBC, Fremantle, and Psycho conducted an internal investigation that ultimately concluded race and gender played no role in her firing. Gabrielle disagreed. In a 2022 settlement, all parties acknowledged the workplace concerns had been addressed. Beyond AGT, Gabrielle has been a fierce public advocate for survivors, sharing in her memoir, We're Going to Need More Wine, how she was raped at gunpoint at age 19 while working at a Payless shoe source. Speaking up costs something. Staying silent costs everything. And history remembers which choice we made. Thandiwe Newton. Some stories take decades to be told because they were carried alone for too long. Thandiwe Newton, now 53 years old, was just 16 years old when she landed her first major film role in 1988. The Australian drama was called Flirting, released theatrically in 1991. The director was John Dwigan, a man more than 20 years her senior. What began as her first acting opportunity became something she would not fully articulate until decades later. In a candid 2020 interview with New York Magazine's Vulture, Thandiwe revealed that John Dwigan groomed her into a sexual relationship during the production of Flirting, when she was a teenager and he was 39. The relationship continued for several years. She also described, in a separate Marie Claire interview years earlier, an audition where a director made her sit with her legs apart while a camera filmed up her skirt for what was described as a screen test. The footage was later allegedly screened privately for the director's friends, used to humiliate and control her. She named the experiences in her own time, in her own voice, with characteristic precision. Dwigan, through representatives, has not formally responded with detailed denial or admission. Thandiwe also revealed in 2021 that she had reverted from the anglicized spelling Thandi back to her birth name, Thandiwe, a reclamation of self that mirrored her larger journey. Across her career, she has won an Emmy for Westworld in 2018, been nominated for a BAFTA, and starred in Crash, Mission Impossible 2, The Pursuit of Happiness, and Marvel's Solo, a Star Wars story. Reclaiming your name, your voice, your story. These are not small acts. They are the architecture of an entire new life, built from the ground up. Tina Turner. The queen of rock and roll lived more lives in one body than most humans dream of. Tina Turner, born Anna Mae Bullock on November 26, 1939, passed away on May 24, 2023, at age 83 in her home near Zurich, Switzerland. Her death marked the end of one of the most remarkable journeys in music history. But before the international superstardom, before the 8 Grammy Awards, before What's Love Got to Do with It climbed to number 1 in 1984, there was a private hell that lasted 16 years. In her 1986 autobiography, I, Tina, she detailed the systematic physical and psychological abuse she endured from her husband and musical partner Ike Turner during their marriage from 1962 to 1978. She described being beaten with coat hangers, telephones, fists, and shoes. She described being forced to perform with swollen eyes and bruised face hidden beneath stage makeup. She described being raped on their wedding night and many nights afterward. In July 1976, after a violent confrontation in a Dallas hotel room, Tina fled with just 36 cents and a mobile gas station credit card in her pocket. She left behind every material thing they had built together. The 1978 divorce gave her nothing financial. She kept only her stage name. She rebuilt her career from scratch in her 40s, releasing Private Dancer in 1984, which became one of the best-selling albums of all time. Her 1993 biopic, with Angela Bassett portraying her, introduced her story to a new generation. She remarried for love in 2013, found peace through Buddhist practice, and lived out her final years in serene retirement. Some women do not survive their cages. The ones who do, who walk out with nothing and rebuild everything, become a kind of permanent miracle. Anika Noni Rose. The voice behind Disney's first black princess carries a sound like warm honey. Anika Noni Rose, now 53 years old, won a Tony Award in 2004 for her electrifying performance in Caroline or Change. She lit up Dreamgirls in 2006. She gave Tiana her unforgettable spirit in The Princess and the Frog in 2009. But on an unidentified flight in 2017, this poised, accomplished artist was reduced in an instant to a woman simply trying to be heard. In a January 2018 interview on SiriusXM's Make It Plain with Mark Thompson, Anika revealed that she had been sexually assaulted by a stranger on a commercial flight the previous year. She had fallen asleep before takeoff, as she always does. The engine had not even fully started. She woke to a man touching her, a man she did not know, who had never spoken a word to her. He had not introduced himself. He had not asked her name. He had simply decided. What followed was a maze of bureaucratic indifference. She alerted the flight crew. The plane was turned around. She filed an immediate report with the FBI. The airline refused to give her the man's name, citing privacy policy. The FBI dropped the case without explanation. She has a photograph of the man. She still does not know who he is. Anika's larger point in that interview struck a nerve worldwide. She was not famous-looking that day. She was wearing a skull cap. She looked like a college student. And still, a man felt entitled to her body. That, she said, is the truth no one wants to hear. The most violating injustices are not always loud. Sometimes they are the silent decision of someone, somewhere, to look away. Taraji P. Henson. Few women in Hollywood have spoken about pay inequality with the searing precision that Taraji P. Henson, now 55 years old, brought to the conversation in late 2023. During the press tour for The Color Purple, Taraji broke down in tears during a SiriusXM interview, telling host Gayle King that she was tired and ready to walk away from acting. The reason was money. After more than 2 decades in the industry, after an Oscar nomination for The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, after 6 seasons of leading Fox's mega-hit Empire, she was still negotiating salaries that did not match her contributions. In multiple interviews, Taraji has detailed the math. She has spoken about how taxes, agent fees, manager fees, and lawyer fees can eat away 70% of a paycheck. She has spoken about being offered roles where she was paid less than her white female peers and dramatically less than her male co-stars. In a particularly raw moment in 2018, she revealed that on The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, she was paid less than $500,000, while Brad Pitt earned tens of millions. Her advocacy has not just been for herself. In 2018, she founded the Boris Lawrence Henson Foundation, named after her late father, to provide mental health resources for the Black community, particularly addressing PTSD and trauma in marginalized populations. She has been candid about her own struggles with anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts. Taraji continues to push for systemic change in how Black actresses are valued, compensated, and centered. Her tears in 2023 sparked an industry-wide conversation that is still unfolding. When a woman tells the truth about being undervalued, she is not asking for pity. She is asking the world to do better, finally, for everyone who comes after. Mary J. Blige. The queen of hip-hop soul has spent her entire career transforming pain into platinum. Mary J. Blige, now 55 years old, has sold over 50 million records worldwide, won 9 Grammy Awards, and earned 2 Academy Award nominations in 2018 for her supporting role in Mudbound and for co-writing the film's original song, Mighty River. But behind every soaring anthem, behind every raw confession set to music, is a survivor who has been remarkably honest about the trauma that shaped her. In her 2019 Amazon Prime documentary, Mary J. Blige's My Life, and across numerous interviews over the decades, Mary has shared a painful truth. She has spoken about being sexually molested as a young girl growing up in the Schlobaum houses in Yonkers, New York. She has shared how that early violation, combined with witnessing domestic violence at home, drove her toward addiction, abusive relationships, and self-destructive patterns throughout her 20s. Her debut album, What's the 411, arrived in July 1992 when she was just 21. Her sophomore album, My Life, released in November 1994, has since been widely recognized as one of the most emotionally devastating records in R&B history. She has openly discussed considering suicide during that period. She has discussed how the men around her, including former label executives and ex-partners, exploited her vulnerability. Her former marriage to Kendu Isaacs ended in 2018 amid a difficult divorce in which she has said she felt financially controlled. Mary turned every wound into a song, every song into a lifeline for women who recognize themselves in her lyrics. There is a special kind of artistry that emerges when someone refuses to let their pain be the end of the story. Mary did not just survive. She built a cathedral from her own broken pieces and invited the rest of us inside. Octavia Spencer. In January 2018, the Academy Award-winning actress shared a story that quietly changed how Hollywood talks about money. Octavia Spencer, now 55 years old, told an audience at a Sundance event that during a recent project, her co-star Jessica Chastain had insisted on tying their salary negotiations together. The result was extraordinary. Octavia ended up earning 5 times her usual asking price. The project was the 2020 holiday comedy, A Christmas Made for You, produced by Chastain's Freckle Films. Octavia revealed that she had once told Chastain in a tearful conversation that she had no idea what to ask for. She did not know the going rate for someone of her experience and accolades. She did not know what fair compensation looked like because the industry had never paid her fairly. As a dark-skinned black actress, even one with an Oscar for The Help in 2012 and 2 additional nominations, she was still being offered fractions of what comparable white actresses commanded. Beyond the pay gap, Octavia has also been candid about appearance-based discrimination throughout her career. She has spoken in interviews about being told her body was wrong for romantic parts. She has talked about being typecast as the wise, supportive friend rather than the lead. She has talked about the loneliness of being the only black woman in countless meetings. Today, she produces her own projects, advocates relentlessly for inclusion riders, and uses her platform to lift other underrepresented voices. Talking about money is one of the bravest things a woman can do publicly. It exposes the hidden mechanisms of injustice, and when she does it, every woman watching learns just a little more about her own worth. Aunjanue Ellis-Taylor. For 3 decades, audiences saw her face in everything from The Help in 2011 to When They See Us in 2019, to her Oscar-nominated role as Oracene Williams in King Richard in 2021. Aunjanue Ellis-Taylor, now 57 years old, finally received the leading actress recognition she deserved with the 2024 release of Origin, directed by Ava DuVernay. But the road to that overdue moment was paved with quiet battles she has only recently started naming aloud. In numerous interviews following her Oscar nomination, Aunjanue has spoken about the long stretches between major roles, the colorism that pushed darker-skinned black actresses to the margins of mainstream productions, and the unconscious biases of casting rooms where she watched lighter-skinned counterparts move ahead while she was told to wait. She has spoken about being typecast as the suffering mother, the strong supporter, the moral compass for white characters, rather than as a full human being with her own complete arc. Her activism has been equally fierce. In 2020, while filming Lovecraft Country for HBO, she wore an "I voted for Joe Biden" face mask to the Critics' Choice Awards in protest of Mississippi's state flag, which still contained Confederate imagery at the time. She has been a vocal advocate for the rights of incarcerated people, particularly black women caught in the criminal justice system. She has openly criticized the entertainment industry's reluctance to tell stories about black women's interior lives. After her 2022 marriage to fellow actress Asia Hyatt, she became Aunjanue Ellis-Taylor, claiming her full identity publicly. Some artists are recognized too late by an industry that watched them work brilliantly for years. But their stories matter more, not less, because they had to fight for every inch they earned. Issa Rae. She built her own door because Hollywood would not open one. Issa Rae, now 41 years old, born Jo Issa Rae Diop in Los Angeles, launched her web series The Misadventures of Awkward Black Girl on YouTube in 2011, after years of being told her stories were too niche, too specific, too black for mainstream television. That web series became the foundation of Insecure, which ran on HBO from 2016 to 2021 across 5 seasons, earning 8 Primetime Emmy nominations and reshaping what stories about young black women in their 20s could look like on television. In a striking September 2024 interview with Time magazine for her cover feature, Issa spoke candidly about the state of Hollywood for black creatives. She described the industry as broken. She talked about projects being shelved, deals quietly disappearing after the racial reckoning of 2020 faded from corporate priorities, and how black executives who had been hired during that wave were being pushed out by 2023 and 2024. She did not hold back. She named specific frustrations with the way studios approached diversity as a trend rather than as a real commitment. Beyond her advocacy, Issa has also been transparent about the labor of being a black woman creator. On Insecure, she served as star, co-creator, executive producer, and writer. She has spoken about being paid less than her male peers in similar dual roles, about the exhausting expectation that she also be a spokesperson for an entire community, and about the loneliness of carrying so much. Her production company, Hooray, continues to develop projects that center black voices, particularly women. The most powerful thing any artist can do is build the table when she is not invited to sit at one. Then she sets a place for everyone who comes next. Before we begin this powerful journey, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to Remembered Lives channel, and ring that notification bell because the stories we share here matter. They are the lives history tried to erase, the voices the world tried to silence. In the comments below, tell us which of these incredible women you most admire and whose story moved you the deepest. Your words remind us why this channel exists, to honor the courage, the pain, and the unbreakable spirit of those who refuse to disappear. Now take a deep breath, because what you are about to hear will change the way you see Hollywood forever.